It was a real world experiment of Ibn Khaldun's theories. He cultivated Sabilla amongst the Bedouins, and he built desert camps known as 𝗲𝗢. And these 𝗲𝗢, he designed it in a way that there was no social hierarchy, everybody was equal. They were then sent ulama from al-Sheikh to teach them the deen, and to teach them also Kitab Tawheed. So these Bedouins, he cultivated them into a desert army. He gave them a book and a structure and a purpose also. So they became his army, a military army whose objective was to do one thing and one thing only, to spread the message of Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab. And so from 1912, this army is mobilized, and without them, he would not be where he is, quite frankly. Because they were fierce warriors, very loyal to him, and they had an ideology that the others didn't have. The desert Ikhwan, al-Ikhwan man ata Allah. And during the 60s and 70s, a second Ikhwan emerged with Juhayman, who was a descendant of the first Ikhwan. But the original is the Ikhwan of Ibn Saud. And they were very, very, very instrumental for him. In fact, as I said before, without these people, I don't think he'd be able to get to where he got to. So
how did he manage to destroy them?
Good question.
Influential.
Good question. Ibn Saud was becoming more and more influential. He clearly had the advantage in the peninsula, and the British knew it, which is why I said earlier on, they paid him not to even conquer Mecca. That's how much influence he had. They actually paid him to hold up. So it was very clear that I've got this in the bag. Now he was satisfied with that. He only wanted that region. He didn't want anything beyond that region. That was his objective. He had met it. He was happy. So when they gave him that title of the king of that region, he was happy. He was content. And he was ready now to build a society, to build his kingdom, to cultivate. The fighting is over. It's time for diplomacy. He began to deal with al-Sabah, even the Sharifat family, he began to deal with them. But his army was unhappy because they began to accuse him of being what? Somebody who's soft. They began to say he's permissive. He doesn't push for the da'wah to extend beyond the region of Saudi Arabia, at the time was known as the Hijaz. He's not pushing for it to go beyond this, whereas he is actually obliged to do that. We need to move into the regions of Iran. We need to move into the regions above Kuwait and Qatar. These regions where there are people who are not upon our da'wah, we need to move in there and spread the deen and spread the da'wah. You had farmers, shepherds in those bordering regions, which at that time, following World War I, came under British protectorate. They were under the British. But these farmers, these nomads, were just minding their own business, cattle grazing, and the Ikhwan was slaughtering them because what's your aqidah? I'm not making this up, literally, I'm not making this up. They would encounter these people in deserts and ask them what their aqidah is. What do you believe? Ibn Saud had a problem in his hands. He had to restrain these people, his army, from causing him problems with the British. But they defied him more than once. So it came to a point where they took him to the Council of Ulama to have mediation. And he agreed to do certain things with them. For example, he's not going to speak to because he was speaking to the British. In fact, he sent his sons to Britain to study in Britain. Faisal studied in Britain as a child. Right? He spent time in Britain, and many other sons. And he was also importing Western ideas and Western goods and Western products into the kingdom. So the army is looking at this thinking, this is completely against what we agreed in the beginning. Right? And furthermore, you're not continuing the job of spreading the da'wah. So they took him to the Council of Ulama, and they had an agreement. The agreement was, I am still your Amir. I am still the Wali al-Amr. You are to obey me. You cannot disobey me. He insisted, you have to obey me. And if you do so, I will also concede to certain demands that you're making. Unfortunately, they reneged on those promises and continued to attack. So it took them a second round of mediation. But this time they were more daring, and they began to accuse him of not being on the right manhaj and not doing the right things and working with kuffar. They were more daring. And he could see that I'm losing a grip here. I'm losing a grip. But to his credit, he still tried to work with them. He really did try to appease them. But they did not stop. So after that second, they went again and they began to attack. Now the British said, listen, you can't control your guys, we're coming in. Because we're not going to lose our interest in Kuwait and Qatar in these regions because of you. If you can't control your guys, we're coming in. So in 1926, Ibn Saud, faced with no other alternative, and I'm not going to advocate for him here, I'm just saying, faced with no diplomatic alternative, he called the British. Okay? So at this point, the Ikhwan were known as Khawarij, Bughat. The scholars gave the fatwa finally, halal dam. Halal dam means your blood is halal. Fatwa was given, and so they met. And in 1929, on March the 30th, the Ikhwan arrived, and they were shocked because what they saw was not another army like them. What did they see? British artillery. Do you know how long the battle lasted? Remember, these guys spent 30 years, the better part of 30 years, fighting alongside Ibn Saud. They helped him build what he had. Do you know how long this battle took? Give me guesses, give me guesses. Give me an estimate. 1 day, 1 week, give me an estimate.
4 hours.
Few hours. Half a day. What?
I want
4 hours.
Okay, 1 hour.
1 hour.
Yeah, 1 hour. Aerial bombing. Aerial. The British just send an aerial strike. Khalas, everything is done.
Wow. Wow.
So the war lasted 1 hour. Yeah, 1 hour. And the Ikhwan were basically, these are known as the old Ikhwan. The OGs, effectively. Because they went out. And the leading figures went to hiding. But they died later on. Disease. One was captured and was executed. Some of the women and the children who were captured, because remember, they lived in Ḥujar, in desert encampments. They didn't live in the society, and they refused to integrate in society. When Ibn Saud was building, so they refused. They remained in the desert, in the Ḥujar. So what he did was, he built for them like you could say a complex. They were receiving state funds. Women and children being rehabilitated. Some of the young men who were alive were taken in under his army, the White Guard. So he didn't just demolish everything. Those who survived, he took them in under his army and effectively repurposed them. But these camps that he left, later on, a new generation of Ikhwan were born. One amongst them was Juhayman.
Welcome to HistoryUn, the world's leading online learning platform specializing in Islamic history. Discover the HistoryUn mobile app and participate in regular live and interactive seminars and tune in directly from your handset from anywhere in the world. Enjoy instant access to a growing catalog of on-demand streaming content exclusive to the platform, accessible from a variety of devices including desktops, tablets, and cell phones. Connect instantly with our global community of history enthusiasts via our private community forum. To find out more about our online history programs and resources, visit our website today at www.historyun.com.